benefit from investing your money, and it's a fraudulent situation. Another one is contractors who come to elderly and older people, and they see run down things on their houses on the outside. Obviously, when the elderly get older and older, they can't do work outside of their homes. So people drive around neighborhoods and look for homes that are starting to show signs of being run down and not cared for properly. They go up to the door and knock on the door and say, hey, do you need anything fixed? We noticed XYZ, your roof, your whatever. And then they come in and they charge them an exorbitant amount to take care of their home and fix their home. Like a $16,000 roof job that suddenly turns into a $50,000 roof job. Oh, and then by the way, you've got plumbing problems. Well, now that turns into another $10,000, and they just keep taking advantage of these people. And the people think that these are the proper prices to pay, and they're not, because they're not involved in these types of things. So again, we need to check in on our elderly family members and just ask them what's going on in life. What's happening today? Oh, a contractor stopped by. Really? Well, what happened? And then get into it. Again, communication is the key to helping and keeping this from happening. Okay, healthcare fraud and abuse, another type of fraud, financial against elderly people, is carried out by unethical doctors, nurses, hospital personnel, and professional care providers. Some examples include not providing health care but charging for it, overcharging or double billing the medical care for services, getting kickbacks and referrals to other providers for prescribing certain drugs, over-medicating or under-medicating, recommending fraudulent remedies or for illnesses or other medical conditions. And then medical fraud, which is that is happening today. Believe it or not, there are unscrupulous doctors out there, and I know this from personal experience, who are absolutely unethical and will take you for every cent they can get from you. And then there are also doctors, the majority of whom are loving, kind, caring professionals who do a really great job. But again, there is that percentage of practitioners and doctors and healthcare providers out there that are just in it for the money, and that's all they care about, and all they care about is getting as much of it as they can as quick as possible. Okay, signs and symptoms of elder abuse. This is something that you really need to take seriously and check on the elderly people. Here's some general signs of abuse. Frequent arguments or tension between caregiver and the elderly person. Now, this might be a family member, or this might be a person from the outside that's taking care of a parent or someone, a home health aide that comes in. My mother worked in hospice care, came in and helped with elderly people, and I know other people involved in hospice care. But frequent arguments. So be careful when you hear that. If you hear arguments going on, you need to go to the elderly person that was in the argument and ask, hey, what was that all about? How come you had an argument? Next is changes in personality or behavior in the elder. Now, this is one of them that's missed a lot because, they're just getting older, their faculties aren't as good as they used to be. But if you see major personality or behavior changes, you need to, again, get in there and ask questions. Ask questions of the caregivers, their doctors, the people that are around them that observe them every day. What's going on? Why is this major personality or behavior change taking place? It could be because of a medical condition that needs to be treated, or it could be because they're being abused. You just need to ask. If you suspect elderly abuse but aren't sure, look for clusters of the following physical and behavioral signs. Number one, physical abuse. Unexplained signs of injury, such as bruises, welts, scars, especially if they appear symmetrical on two sides of the body. Like you can, on their upper arms, they have bruises where it looks like somebody grabbed them by the upper arms. And older people bruise very, very easily. We know that. So we need to be careful in what we're seeing, but we also need to be asking questions. If somebody isn't abusing an elderly person and they have bruises all over, I mean, you ask, they shouldn't have any problem with it. They should just say, oh, they had this problem or that problem, they bumped into something, whatever. I've had some elderly relatives who have just bumped their hand and then had this huge, just terrible-looking bruise on their hand because they bumped their hand. And so we really need to make sure that we're asking questions again and checking on this types of things. Now, here are some more serious signs: broken bones, sprains, and or dislocation. Now, most elderly people are very careful that they don't fall and that they aren't physically harmed in any way. So they make preparations, they do things, they have walkers, they have other types of devices that help them around. So if you see an elderly person with broken bones, sprains, dislocations, you really need to be asking about this and checking on it to find out what's going on. Overdoses of drugs or a failure to take medication, or a prescription has more remaining than it should. If you're going into the house of an elderly person, especially a child, or a niece, nephew, whatever, if you're going into their home regularly and you know they've gotten their prescription, pick up their prescription bottle and look at it, and it'll say the date it was filled. And then it'll tell you how many a day are supposed to be taken, and then just dump the pills out and count them. And if you see that they're supposed to take one a day, it's a 30-day prescription, and it's 15 days after the prescription was filled, and there's still 29, 28 pills left in that bottle, that means they're not taking that medication. So you need to talk to the elderly person or to the caregiver and say, what's going on here? This says it was filled on this date, and so many was supposed to be taken, and this many are left in the bottle. Are they not getting their medication? Or is too much being taken? Check it again. Count through the pills. If it's on the 15th day of the month and there's only 2 pills left in the bottle, should be throwing up a flag saying, hey, there's way too much medication be given here or taken. Where's it going? And some of it, depending on the medications, might be being taken by the caregiver to give to other people or take themselves. Another thing to look for physical signs is broken eyeglasses or frames. Signs of being restrained, such as rope marks on wrists, or a caregiver's refusal to allow you to see the elder alone. If you have a caregiver who won't allow you to see your elder relative or someone under your charge alone, that throws up a huge flag. So really be careful of that, because a lot of time if somebody's abusing an elderly person, they won't say anything when that caregiver is there in the room or they know that they're listening. So you need to devise a way to get that caregiver out of the room or get the person away from them for a period of time so that you can talk to them. Emotional abuse. Signs of this are threatening, belittling, or controlling caregiver behavior that you witness, or behavior from the elder that mimics dementia, such as rocking, sucking, and or mumbling to oneself. Sexual abuse, signs of that are bruises around breasts and genitals, unexplained venereal disease or genital infections, unexplained vaginal or anal bleeding, or torn or stained or bloody underclothing. And like I said, I can't imagine someone taking advantage of an elderly person in this matter, but if you see these things, please speak up and say something, because they do not deserve this abuse, and again, God is fighting for them. Here's another verse I'd like to read to you from the Bible. It's Zechariah 7, verse 9. It says, the Lord says, render true judgments, show kindness and mercy to one another. So God is saying that we need to give true judgment as far as what's going on with our elderly people, and show kindness and mercy to one another, and especially those who are weak. God's a big fighter for the weak. Okay, here's neglect. neglect by caregivers or self-neglect, unusual weight loss, malnutrition, dehydration, untreated physical problems such as bed sores, unsanitary living conditions, dirt, bugs, spoiled bedding, and clothing, being left dirty or unbathed, unsuitable clothing or covering for the weather, unsafe living conditions, no heat, running water, faulty electrical wiring, and other hazards, and desertion of the elderly at public places. This is quite often somebody doesn't want to take care of someone anymore. They just take them to a public place and drop them off. And they're left there. A lot of times these people don't know where they are or even who they are. And this is a terrible thing. Financial exploitation. Now, with the advent of e-banking that's going on right now, we should be able to help out our elderly if you're in their confidence. Say this is a mother or father, you live far away. You can set up e-banking with their bank where you can check their accounts, the transactions on their accounts, and not have access to spend any of the money. You just have access to view their accounts. You can do this right from your smartphone. Contact their bank and ask them if they have e-banking. Almost every bank does. It's a simple setup. It is a username, a password, and a bunch of secret questions that you can set up with the elderly person, and then just track their accounts. You know what the amounts are. When you see a huge amount being taken out, or you see an ATM transaction on one of their accounts when they're bedridden and can't get up out of the bed, you should be able to throw up a flag. So this is something that I if you are in true care and want to help out elderly people, especially people who may be experiencing financial exploitation, set this up with them. If you're a loving caregiver, you're a trusted son or daughter or relative, close relative, you need to take a look at these types of things. Healthcare fraud, again, poorly treated. If they're in a home where they're in a facility, whether or not the people there are poorly paid or there's insufficient staff, there's crowding, there's inadequate responses to questions about care. If you see, grandma's got a bruise on her head, ask why. And this happens quite often. Even my elderly grandmother, Beulah Taylor, who I love dearly, she was in a nursing home for many, many years, and she was dropped, and she was hurt, and she was not fed at times, and not taken care of properly. Thank God for a period of time, my cousin was working in that home. She never let on that this was her grandmother, but always watched after her and was able to report abuse and or neglect when she saw it. So we know this happens. I've experienced it personally in my family, and I'm sure that my elderly aunts could tell you right now some more things that I don't even have knowledge of. But okay, let's go into risk factors for caregivers. I'm going to go over this really quick. Many non-professional caregivers, such as spouses, adult children, and relatives or friends, find taking care of an elder to be satisfying and enriching. But the responsibilities and demands of elder caregiving, which escalate as the elder's condition deteriorates, can also be extremely stressful. The stress of elder care can lead to mental and physical health problems that the caregiver becomes burned out, impatient, and unable to keep from lashing out against the elder in their care. And this is very true of many family members who are just non-professionals, and they're overwhelmed. All of a sudden, grandma or mom or dad comes to live with them, and they love them, they love and want to take care of them, but the stress is just wearing them right out. Some significant risk factors for elder abuse by caregivers, mainly the unprofessional inability to cope with the stress or lack of resilience, depression, which is common among caregivers, lack of support from other potential caregivers, and the caregiver's perception that taking care of the elder is burdensome and without psychological reward. And then one of the other risk factors is substance abuse among